Why, hello. I am Tiara Reed, the owner of Inspire, Engage, and Educate. And I'm super, super excited not only to be here to tell you why I'm in love with BAE, building ambitious endeavors, but to also allow two of the most amazing people that are in my life doing incredible things to tell you their story and why they are in love with BAE. We do have Dr. McAfee and he is here. He is a phenomenal author, educator, and just all around entrepreneur. As well as we have Dr. Kirk, who's here, and he is the same. He is not only a phenomenal educator, but he is prolific in the areas of politics as well as the African American culture. He is a very strong force in his position in the LGBTQ. Let me know if I missed out.
IA plus community.
Plus community, absolutely. So we cannot have a conversation about being in love with BAE without having some people who are truly every day they get up and they strive toward what they have made as a commitment to themselves to build ambitious endeavors. So I want to be very honest with you guys. This is a very informal conversation with two people who I find to have very strong intellect in not only what it is that they do for themselves, but what they want to give out to into the world, into the community. So I will start off with Dr. McAfee because Dr. McAfee also went to Alabama State University, which is a HBCU. We just had a conversation about the power of HBCUs. And not only, and if you've seen him on my show before, you know that he was one of the beacons of light at the HBCU that I attended, Alabama State University. He was on and I don't want to say it's wrong. I think it's SOS, right? It's SOS. Yeah. SOS. He was on that committee, and their sole purpose was to make us freshmen feel welcome, warm, and kind of, just empower us or cultivate that pride within us. And he did his job. I was so impressed with him. That was the first time I'd seen someone not too older than me, but that was very serious about giving back to the community, giving back to our school. And I'm just so lucky to call him brother, friend. And Dr. McAfee, tell us a little bit about why you are in love with BAE. So when we say BAE, we're talking about building ambitious endeavor, people.
Well, building ambitious endeavors is a passion for mine. Well, first off, thanks, T, for having me. Thanks for that warm introduction. I love your energy. I think, the pride that was instilled in us at Alabama State is infectious. And so I'm glad you still remember that. It makes me feel special, like I did my job. So shout out to Mama D and the whole SOS crew at the Alabama State University. But I characterize myself as a successful serial social entrepreneur. So I do things that raises consciousness. And so T, when we were talking about this, my brief testimony, I was a public school educator, charter school educator for 19 years. And I went on a journey where equity was important to me, making sure that voices that are marginalized, forced to the side, either it be because of color, due to economic opportunity, or even your ranking in school, like a student doesn't have an advocate. Unless it's the teacher or the parent speaking up for them. And so, the kid has to learn how to be an advocate for themselves. So on my journey to equity, I learned about some practices that just didn't sit right with me in the public school system. And so when I decided to speak up, I kind of got like, be quiet, or sit down, so to speak. And that just gave me the courage that I needed to step out on faith and do this ambitious endeavor. And I remember, because we talked about this before, I came down to the vision board party in Atlanta. And I told myself, man, you got these books in you that you have not written. You've been holding them in since you were like 19 years old. And so when we were in the vision board party, I only had one book published that I didn't promote, didn't get my story out there to help children who are grieving. And, when you gave us a challenge, like check in with yourself in 3 months, check in with yourself in 6 months, check in with yourself, in 9 months, where are you? Are you closer to your goal? And we did that. We had accountability partners. And so I'm in love with building ambitious endeavors with BAE because it fulfills me, right? Doing this work, knowing that I'm passing on something that could be legacy, and I'm promoting the ideas of equity in children, Black children specifically. I want them to see themselves out front. So I'm glad that I took this this challenge or this initiative or got pushed to do this, because I would have just let this die on a shelf. Like I said, I was doing great in my career, and I love what I do, being a building principal, but I would have been holding on to this for forever and never produce this fruit. And so I have the 3 books out now, and I'm still writing. I'm still speaking on equity education in school. So I'm doing what I love. And had I, I'm glad I got the push to do it, because I could just be, a cog in the wheel, perpetuating the cycle of the prison to school pipeline, which I was a victim, well, not a victim, but a perpetuator of, because I did not see children as human beings. I just saw them as a product to push through our school systems. And so with my revelation, I just realized that that's not okay, and I have to do more. And so that's why I do the work.
That is profound. And I just, as you begin to speak, I just thought about not only like those moments, right? It really feels like it was yesterday. You've gone from, just visiting, hanging out with your HBCU friends, to being an author of not 1, but 3 books, establishing yourself as a thought leader within something that you think is, that is important, and that you actually know every student, they not only just deserve it, it's their right to have equity. So thank you so much for that. And during Black History Month, if you are looking for a great book for your class, please, please, please go to the website and download, or just purchase your book. I have all 3. I sure do. So we got to move on from that introduction of Dr. McAfee to Dr. Kirk. Now, Dr. Kirk, I actually met him roughly, about a year and a half ago now, where myself and another friend of mine were basically chatting about our commitment to the community, and idea that we had, that we were having a pop-up shop for African-American businesses. And immediately when Dr. Kirk and I met, I had no idea that he was also an educator, but he is an educator extraordinaire amongst other things. So it's just such a pleasure to call him a friend, and to have him on the panel today. So please let us know, why are you in love with BAE, or what inspired you to be in love with building ambitious endeavors?
So, you know what? It really comes down to for me, these ambitious endeavors, it all relates back to what is really your work. What is your calling? Why are you here? Why are you doing this? And so, I was, like you said, an educator for 15 years, taught, wonderful experience, 9 years in the classroom, then the remaining years in central office administration, before now going and working with an educational sales company, which has also been a phenomenal experience. And for me, it's a continuous journey. That's a lot of changes and a lot of growth, all about being the best version of myself so that I can contribute more to the world as a whole. I'm a big believer in micro influence, and the reality that many people, everyone has a purpose, everyone has work to do, but in order to have a macro or large influence, it starts at the micro level. It starts with the book and the work that Dr. Sheldon has written, and then going from there, from Dr. McAfee's book, to the kids who read those books and how those books impact those kids. And you're having a micro influence that will then cascade over into a macro influence. So all of that inspires me and inspires the work. And you guys talked about, being graduates of Alabama State. I went to Mississippi State, which is not an HBCU, but, and this is not only is this Black History Month, but I think it's also like, is this HBCU Awareness Week? Are they celebrating? This is like the week we celebrate our HBCUs. And so, and I will say this, that my advocacy has been a part of my life that was instilled in me from childhood. This is something that, my family taught me to do, that you stand up for things that you believe in, and that you fight for those who may be too afraid to fight for themselves. As a child, I remember specifically, I would watch the news every night with my great grandmother. We would go and vote every election. We dressed up, we would go and vote, come right back, like, 2 minutes to vote in this little town. And so when I went to Mississippi State, the Black students there, right? So we talk about Black excellence at your HBCUs, but you got Black people everywhere. And my Black students at Mississippi State were a different group of people than what I had grown up with. and they thought of themselves a little differently, some of them. But what they lacked was leadership. They lacked a common vision. They lacked being brought together. And when you talk about equity, Dr. McAfee, and you talk about this work that you're doing, this has been an issue in American education for as long as it's been American education. And as a student at Mississippi State, I saw that as a need and immediately addressed it. I became president of the Black Student Alliance, and I brought the Black people together. And I thought to myself, where is the most immediate way we can have a presence on this campus so that the younger Black students here, like you were when you met Dr. McAfee, will then be able to have models of excellence to go forward. And we had an all-Black homecoming court 2 years in a row. We organized and we took over this PWI homecoming, kicked those Greek sororities, Chi Omega, Tri Delta, Phi Mu out of the way, and made it all Black for 2 years in a row. And they stopped it after I graduated. But the point was that was a way of showing younger generations of students who went to the school what you can do when you come together as a community. And I've held on to that throughout the course of my life and throughout the course of my advocacy. And when we come together, we can do amazing things. The problem is there are so many forces that coalesce against us who stop us from coming together. And they have become extremely subtle, very subtle ways of keeping us apart. So I'm in love with BAE because it really is a calling in my life to do this work. And I'll do it, I'm certain, for the rest of my life. And it'll continuously go from having micro influence to one day, I'm sure, having a macro. Whether it's me that makes that macro influence or it's someone I've inspired along the way.
Wow, that's profound. And just hearing you both, you have so many similarities, right? You talk about the equity that although Dr. McAfee and I attended the HBCU, but we still, of course, see that there's equity, within all communities, to be honest. So let's transition from what inspired you to just telling us a little bit about what keeps you thriving in that committed relationship with BAE. And let me tell you guys, if you are an entrepreneur out there, or even if you're an educator, because that is who my crowd is, they're either educators or entrepreneurs. There is something that's inside of you that thrives you and makes you get up that next morning after the Super Bowl to go teach those kids, that makes you get up after the Super Bowl and decide I'm going to work a little bit on writing my book or, contacting more customers, whatever it is that you need to do. There's something inside of you that's thriving you. So what is it? What keeps you going? Because we know, as someone who has a goal, or if you are charting new territory, sometimes you can, be led astray, and you may not have the focus that you desire or your the task at hand deserves. What keeps you thriving? And either of you can jump in and share.
Gotta unmute yourself. I remember you said that. So my faith, as I was sitting here, I was thinking, the other day, my mother texted my brother, my sister, and I. She said, "Oh, I want y'all to read. You know how I love a good praying mama who send you scripture." She said, "Oh, baby, I want y'all to read Matthew and Mark, and notice how many times the Lord says immediately." And I was like, "All right, Mom, I'm gonna do it, right?" And so then my brother texted us with some great news, and he was like, "Man, I did what Mama said. I read them scriptures, counted how many times." I said, "How many times is it?" He said, "You got to read it for yourself." And so I went and I read those scriptures, and I can't remember how many times, but a lot of times in Matthew and Mark, he says immediately, like after the believer asks God for a miracle, it happens immediately. And so that got me to thinking, wow, you're not even going to know how fast it happens, but it's going to happen. So be ready. But the people, so all the ones who asked him for something, like the man who had the lame arm, the lady with the issue of blood, they'd all been going through their process for a long time. But it didn't matter until when they got to Jesus, it changed immediately. And so that just resonated with me, that at any moment, the master can say, boom, boom, I want you to write this script, write this movie, write this play, because it happens, when the fusion happens, but you got to practice your skill set, right? You got to hone your craft, like delivering presentations to teachers, writing books, Writing stories, that doesn't happen easily. So you got to be ready when the opportunity meets success, or when you got to be prepared for when you meet opportunity so you can hit your successful moment. And so what keeps me going is knowing that the breakthrough is coming. Right? Like I have bigger ambitions and I believe God for them. And hearing that word was encouraging for me, because sometimes it does get dark. Like you still got bills to pay. You still got kids to put through college. I got a daughter. I got two nieces. I got a niece and a nephew in college right now, and they need supplies, and I want to be able to provide for them. And so you have your household expenses, but you can't get bogged down by what you don't have if you're not thinking about what you're working towards. And so the motivation that I get is from the scriptures. My mother gave us that scripture, and it's really good. If you want some encouragement about breakthroughs happening and how and the timing God used, read it through Matthew and Mark, and just see how many times he says immediately. For those faith believers, for those in the Christian faith, that believe, it's a great inspiration for me. So I hold to it. That's what pushes me to keep going after BAE. Like I can't build an ambitious endeavor without the creator, without the one who gave me my dreams in the first place. So seek him first, and then all things shall be added unto you. So that's the avenue I try to go.
Yeah, I love that. I think that is I agree 100%. And, I have to say also that I'm propelled by faith, but I guess what really keeps me going is a convicted sense of purpose, right? So, your audience are educators who are in entrepreneurship endeavors, and they drive towards, wanting to pursue that. And so that's right, LaShawn. And so, for me, it's about, again, a continuous purpose. And when you link your passion to a sense of purpose, you're not going to give up. You're not going to stop. It's going to continuously drive you. So I know that what I'm doing is connected to both, right? So education is my passion. Teaching people is my passion. Serving people is my passion. And my purpose is to have an impact on individuals, to empower them, and to find a way to put, I'm someone who believes in putting other people first, right? Like there's a whole movement, self-care, take care of yourself. And I get all that. You just take your baths, right? You make your hot chocolate, you do all that. You massage your feet, whatever. But for me, that is not, it's somewhat of an inherently, selfish approach. For me, I believe in putting others first. I believe that I am here to serve. I'm a servant. And it is my play. And God sends people into my life that need me to put them first, who should be put first, who deserve to be put first. And it's all connected. So that's what gets me up. That's what drives me. That's what keeps me going. But as a caveat, I know that's not everybody's story. Some people's story is a life of service, right? Where they've been forced to put themselves last. And therefore, with that as a caveat, you should put yourself first more. But for me, putting myself first is a natural, inherent, born instinct. So life has taught me to always make a conscientious effort to put myself far down the road, to keep ego in check. And again, to be able to contribute greater to this world we live in.
Can I add to something that I heard from Brother Z here? The micro impression, like the fact that you are leaving behind little impressions upon people that motivates and encourages them. Like I get messages sometimes from former students that I had about the things that they're working on, the things that they're doing, and it makes me feel good, And then I hear comments or feedbacks about my books from children who will send me messages, and they're thinking, I like that idea about, being brave when you have to speak up against someone. I'm glad you taught me that, right? So hearing those micro impressions, it does make you keep going, because that the work is catching hold. Like I love teaching adults. That's my new gig right now. I've never done that before, but I've been doing it now for 2 years. And I really do like it, because I've always taught children for the longest time. So feedback from kids, feedback from adults, because of those impressions those little small impressions that, little seeds you're planting. So like when you read those books when you were children, you remember the messages that were inside of it, right? Like the Miss Nelson is Missing book, Be Nice to Your Teacher, or the Dirty Harry Dog book, like Be Kind to People No Matter What They Look Like. So you hear these little stories. And so I just try to put those in familiar faces that the kids can be connected to. But I do resonate with, that resonates with me, what he said.
Oh, wow.
That's right. That's emotional income.
You are so right. LaShawn, thank you for joining us tonight. We are having this conversation. Listen, just like LaShawn, we want to see your comments and your questions. You see the ticker going by. Please share your comments and your questions. We are talking about being in love with BAE, building ambitious endeavors. And I guess it's not fair for me asking you guys questions without me sharing a little bit about my story. Now, of course, I am in love with BAE. I am in love with building ambitious endeavors. But what really made me jump and take a leap of faith with no parachute, just knowing that faith is going to be there to catch me, was the moment that I decided, you know what? I faced one of the darkest times in my life, which was breast cancer. Was faced with the idea that I may leave my child, which of course is that's any parent's worst nightmare. You don't want to leave your child, right? So I felt as if I can face my deepest, darkest fear, I can face the fear of rejection, of this not working. At the end of the day, I have 3 degrees. I can always go teach somebody. So that was one of the things that made me leave my stable paying collegiate job and just go full force into empowering others. I know how good it felt to understand that what I had, no one else has, right? And the fact that not only you have something that no one else has, there are people willing to invest in you and bless you for helping them, right? So I decided that when I developed Inspire, Engage, and Educate, which is my company, I wanted to do all 3. I wanted to inspire people who may have still been in the classroom or may have a business idea, but they're afraid to launch it. I wanted to inspire them, those who may have been going through breast cancer or maybe just scared, may have found a lump like I did and waited. I wanted to inspire those and then engage. Because I am an educator and been working in this field since Alabama State for about 20 years, I knew that I did have the talent to engage people and meet them where they are. So when you know that there are people who are going to need a little more, where there may be someone that may be going through something similar to you, or someone that needs a little more of an example of where it is that they can go if they did see what you saw in them. That's how I developed my Engage, and how I'm able to do that is, of course, doing events, having opportunities like this to share the people in my life with you so you can hear their stories. And the last is to educate. I love working with schools, organizations, and individuals, and also districts with figuring out ways that they can solve problems, but just not the regular way, innovatively. And that's pretty much what I do. And it's what I've been doing for a long time, but to actually have the faith in myself that I didn't need someone else signing my check to be able to do it. I could do it by myself, was one of the most priceless moments. Now, has it been easy? Absolutely not. Has it been the most rewarding, opportunities and decisions that I've ever made in my life? Absolutely. Because if you own your labor, you own your time. And that's one thing when you are faced with a decision of will you do chemo, will you do whatever it is to preserve your time. You know how priceless it is. It's worth way more than money. So I decided to work for myself so that I could have that time and spend it with my child, with traveling and helping people the way that I like to help them. So that's a little bit about me. Do you guys have any questions that maybe I didn't answer through what I shared?
I think that's a beautiful story. You guys have given me a lot of great stuff. I definitely want to, like, for your audience, I want them to ask some questions. I'll take over. I'm sorry. But I also want to make sure that, we're giving your audience like some tips and recommendations on how they can embrace BAE to pursue their endeavors. I want to share, I have nothing to sell. I sell nothing. I have no books for sale. I wrote one, it's free. And everything I do, it's all free, right? Like I have nothing to give you. But education. So what I do want to share though is this. Have you ever heard of Weather Not Worn? Have you heard of it? Look, this is a thriving clothing brand from a Clayton County educator and her husband. Okay, so if you know me, you know I'm a huge supporter of people, specifically educators, who do exactly what we're talking about today, who go out there and they embrace BAE, they move forward with their passion pursuits. Their primary focus is denim. And it's like weathered, deconstructed denim. So they have a lot of phenomenal jeans and all of that. I'm not a big jean person, but I do love a really nice, comfortable sweater, t-shirt. And this is, of all the brands, of all the t-shirts, of all the shirts, this is absolutely the most comfortable cloth fabric that I can put on. And I absolutely love them. I have never met these people. Didn't even know they were educators until I went to the website because I was so enamored with the product. But when I found out that she was a Clayton County educator who created this company, it won me over even more. I purchased, you can buy it online. They have stuff online. I always buy mine from the Village Market ATL. I'm a big supporter of like Black-owned businesses. I try to go to the Village Market once a month. I go to Pond City Market. I go to Black Wall Street in Lithonia once a month to make sure I'm giving and putting my extra income into the community. But again, I love the saying, weathered, not worn. We go through a lot in life. We experience a lot, but we keep going strong. And, we're weathered, we're time tested, we're mature, we're wiser, but we're not worn because we're not going to break. So again, I want to shout this company out. And again, make sure I'm answering any questions for your community about some things that they may want to know in regards to activism. I definitely want to encourage our educators out here to do more on social media. I notice that a lot of people have these amazing things going on, but you're not building up your social media network or your digital footprint. And this is the 21st century. Now, I know that we're older, right? But that's no excuse. We have to embrace the future. And the future right now is big with social media influencing. If you don't have a presence on social media, no one's going to find your product, no one's going to find your resource, and no one's going to know what you're doing. You cannot let your job consume your career. You cannot let your job consume your career.
Say it again.
You cannot let your job consume your career, because that's what we do as educators. We give, and our jobs will take. And at the end of the day, we have nothing left to give for the things that drive us, for the things that we're called to do beyond the actual job we have. Being a teacher, being a principal, being whatever we do in education, it is our job. It may be connected to our purpose. It may be connected to our passion, but it is still our job. Of course, I think all of us at a certain age have seen educators die on the job, right? And they're replaced the next day with a sub, and very quickly someone new is hired. We have all seen amazing people leave our buildings. The best teachers that we know, we watch them leave, and the world goes on. Yep, school's not the same, faculty has changed, but it still continues. So therefore, we have to understand that dynamic so that we realize we only got one shot at this in its current form, and we need to make the most of it.
Thank you so much, Zach. And Dr. McAfee, please share. When he mentioned social media, I thought about you, and I thought about ways that you engage your audience, not only talking about, literacy, but HBCU, because we are HBCU grads and advocates.
I would wholeheartedly agree with what my brother Z is saying. A couple of things. One, he's absolutely right. Like, you have to have a presence in social media. I would say now in the 21st century to gauge your students. Like, we need to solve a 21st century problem with education with 21st century solutions. We're still holding and operating schools like it was when Thomas Jefferson started it with the agrarian calendar, where kids go out and do the harvest in the fall. I ain't never seen my son cut grass, let alone go harvest in the summertime. So I don't know why we still do that. Technology is our friend. There are so many ways. I did my dissertation. There's so many ways you can engage technology with children, right? So to his point, we were the first home video game generation. Y'all know that, right? Like, we had the Sega and the Nintendo. So we were the first digital footprint. So there's no reason we should hide away or run away or, be scared to use technology pieces to engage our students or promote our educational platform. I love watching the teachers on social media. I love the funny ones. I love the ones that speak truth to power. I love the ones that make the funny memes. I try to make funny ones myself because I think, I said like Abbott Elementary is coming on a little bit. That's my favorite show because that platform, we need a release, And so I think that he's absolutely right. Like if you don't have a TikTok or an Instagram or something, find a way to connect with your families and your kids. It can be used positively and engage your families in a fun way, I would say, and even used for instruction. And then his point about Black-owned business, the capitalism is not going away. And apparently Black folks are not going to leave America like I always, wanted us to do, like go colonize a whole nother space. But since we're here, we have to contribute to the system. And the only way Black folks are going to empower each other, I think, is financially. So if you have an opportunity to just, am I on mute? Oh, so if you have an opportunity to support a Black-owned business, you should wholeheartedly take advantage of that. Recycle those dollars or actually build up our community by pouring your dollars into it. If there's a candle maker, there's someone who makes clothes, there's someone who makes gym shoes, there's someone who sells groceries. Go support their business because that's the only way that the Black community is going to thrive in a capitalist society. Like you can go and buy Adidas, sure, but if you know a Black woman who makes shoes, support her. If you know a Black woman who makes dresses, cakes, pies, and it's in your and it's not far for you to travel, support them. Your former alumni, your network, get in touch with them because that's the only way we're going to keep the Black dollars going. Like we have the push now at ASU where we're doing a heavy fundraiser campaign so we can build up the capacity of the school, the recruiting efforts. You get the quality students that we need and want there, then we get a growing economy. So working with colleges and recruiting is a great way to build your economy and supporting Black-owned businesses. Please, at least once a week, commit to supporting a Black-owned business if you can. Something that will generate a movement for us as a people.
And I want to add us one caveat. Look now, I want to tell teachers that a little bit of the opposite. Do not do your social media around your job. Not teaching. No. Listen, you are more than just simply somebody's teacher. Like you're more than somebody's wife, and you're more than somebody's husband, and you're more than somebody's parent. You are a dynamic person with a lot of layers and a lot of multifaceted opportunities. And use your social media for you, whatever that passion may be. That is what's going to lead to you having opportunities that can earn money on the side or even have a whole nother career branch out. I think of the lady, I think it's Lachey Greenwood, who was huge on TikTok with these really funny videos of the teacher sitting at her desk eating chips and the kids in the background talking. Lachey Greenwood has now left teaching. I'm not saying you should do that, but she is now a six-figure plus influencer from these really funny TikToks. I'm not saying comedy may be your lane. Your lane may be candles. Your passion may be cooking. You may have an affinity towards giving relationship advice. Whatever that side passion is that maybe you haven't developed, think about that. Find that, and then think about how you can use that on social media, whether it's TikTok, Instagram, LinkedIn, Twitter. It's so many opportunities. I definitely recommend that you explore that, and I promise you it's going to pay off. I started TikTok in April of 2020, like many people in the pandemic, and use it for political advocacy. And it was I was worried about it because, again, in education, we're taught don't share your political ideas. You may make the parents mad. But the reality is, who better to tell the truth about what's happening in the world and in the news than an educator? Because if we're going to get out here and say it, we know it, and we're going to tell the truth because of those concerns. And now I have, 47,000 followers, 2.7 million likes on that platform. Then, I also took that into Instagram and grew from the pandemic from like 8,000 followers to like 20 now, 1,000 followers. And opportunities come in to do collaborations with brands and things of that nature. And they need us. We are typically older than many of the influencers out there, but guess what? We have influence. And not only do we have influence, we have built-in networks. So there's a lot of opportunity out there to supplement your income or to even build a whole nother type of career.
And just to add to that, one of the things that, and this is just a connection. So my daughter is in Algebra 1, and she thought that I was just so crazy because I said, you know what? I just kind of laid out a different list of what we were going to do to ensure that she became a little bit more proficient and master her standards. I was like, you know what? You like TikTok? There are TikToks for everything you want to learn. And she thought that I was crazy. And I'm telling her, I said, listen, that's how I learn things, off TikTok. So if you are an educator and you do enjoy math or you do enjoy, tidbits about history, believe me, in those little bites, children will look and listen and watch it. So I will say, use what you have to definitely make the impact that you want. So being in love with BAE is so beneficial.
Yeah, the social media has shortened our attention span, but you get a lot of information in a short amount of time. So
absolutely. So before we end tonight, you guys, first of all, it was just such a pleasure to start off this series of Being in Love with BAE with you two. And is there anything that you would like our audience to look out for? Any lasting advice? I know you talked about possibly talking about tips. Those are things that I definitely want to ensure that I incorporate as this series goes on. And you guys know you're more than welcome to come back and chat. We will have 2 or 3 more people as we move on, talking about maybe they're not educators, maybe they're just authors, or maybe they're just entrepreneurs. But if you're in love with BAE, we definitely want to have you on here, because my goal, friends, they need to hear about what you are doing in your committed relationship with building abundant, ambitious endeavors. So I'll let you guys chat, whoever wants to go first.
Oh, I can. So yeah, I would say, what's the question? I thought that was the conclusion.
There wasn't a question. There wasn't a question. It was basically open
yeah,
to
whatever
you want to say. I just want to say again, you guys follow me. I'm on Instagram as Zactivist, TikTok as Zactivist. I'm also on TikTok with Zach in the ATL, or Zach in ATL. And that's another TikTok account. It's smaller, but it's about food reviews, and it's a little bit more brandable of a TikTok account. And, I use it to talk about kind of like, again, food reviews, but definitely follow tons of stuff. I also want to tell your audience they need to get on Fanbase. It's so good to be on the front of a trend instead of being in the back of a trend trying to catch up. Fanbase is a Black-owned social media endeavor that I do believe is going to get bigger and is going to blow up. And I think it'll be great to get on early. Right now, many creators are using it as a Black Clubhouse, which is what Clubhouse really was in the first place. Like, Black people went on Clubhouse and made that app explode. But we don't own the app, had no stake in the app, drew no revenue from the app. So Fanbase has an amazing audio room component that's doing very, very well, but it's also able to do everything else that you would do on Instagram. So imagine if Clubhouse could do what Instagram can do, then you would have Fanbase. So definitely also I recommend to your followers, get on Fanbase, learn how to use that, and grow early with the app.
Well, to the social media plugs, my Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok is all Dr. Sheldon C. McAfee, like it is right there on the website. Website for the books is the same place. And if you are in love with BAE, if you are pursuing and building those ambitious endeavors, I ask you to stay committed to your goal. It's going to get hard. Sometimes you're going to get knocked down. Sometimes you're going to hear no. I just had a feature in the Shout Out Atlanta, which I was really, pleased to be invited to write for, to tell a little bit about my story. But I wrote in there that you get knocked down, right? Like Langston Hughes, it wrote Mother to Son, Life Ain't No Crystal Stairs. Like, it's going to have boards torn up and splinters in places where ain't no carpet on the floor. But that doesn't mean you stop climbing. That doesn't mean you sit down. So whatever adversity think about the lesson that was in it. Like maybe somebody almost tried to swindle you out of your portion. Well, what did you learn from that? Because you will have to be cautious of those people who are riding your coattail. They're not necessarily there to push you up the hill. They're there to snatch the crumbs that fall out of you. So what do you learn from that? So in everything that you go through on your rise to, pursue your goals, learn from it. Even the mistakes, celebrate the victories, celebrate the small things, galvanize yourself, encourage yourself, so to speak, so that you'll keep going. And then when you reach your goal, and when you hit your follower number or you get your income goal, reach back and help someone else, be it mentorship, be it financial contribution, be it public speaking events. Reach back and teach and show someone else how they can keep pursuing or how they can reach their goal of being hitting those ambitious endeavors. So I hope that's what my legacy will be. I hope my family, children, generations after me, students, great grandchildren will say, oh, I love how Granddaddy Mac reached back and gave to us. So.
Absolutely. Thank you both, gentlemen. And as you were talking, I just thought about the power of not hustling for your first name, but your last name, right? Leaving a legacy of what it is that if someone had to read your obituary today, what is it that they will say about you? I have to think about that. I remember it would be at different professional development experiences, and people would say, what is your dot? Right? So what is your dot? What are you doing after, or to basically add to your legacy? So I leave you with that. And if you are in love with BAE, what are you willing to do to make those things that you see or your vision to actually manifest? Because remember, as Dr. McAfee said, you have to prepare. That's me, it's preparation and opportunity, right? And also with Dr. Kirk, thank you for what you shared about being trailblazers and us starting to amplify our voices everywhere. And I know we talked a lot about our African American community and our HBCU, but even if you are not an African American and you're watching this, we want you to also know that your advocacy for whatever it is you believe in is as important. And we want you to encourage or be encouraged to support those that are marginalized, because that is completely what I am about, right? I want to support our small businesses as well as our educators that may just be on the fence. Listen, I know people say, oh, it's so scary, 30 years, why would you settle for 30 years of doing something that you don't enjoy just to get a retirement check when you can start living today doing something that you do enjoy as you empower what you're doing with your paycheck? So that's another way to look at it as well. I remember being 38 and retiring from teaching, and I'm doing well. So I just want you guys to feel empowered, and I want you to understand that being in love with BAE is something that you truly have to be committed to. And I'm not great by mistake, neither are you. And we look forward to seeing you guys soon. Bye.